Good afternoon. How to win with Ironjawz as of October 2023. This is, of course, after all the new releases that we got from for the Ironjawz models. So let's see if anything's changed. TLDR for experienced players. It is unclear to me which subfaction is best. Right now, everyone seems to be playing Iron Suns and, to a lesser extent, Dachapas, but I'm unsure if Bloodtooth is still the best subfaction. Ardboys totally changed non-Bloodtooth armies. Totally changed. For Bloodtooth, we're just like, okay, well, we'll just use Brutes instead, right? But the new Ardboys are really, really good. So we'll see how good they are in Iron Suns and Dachapas. My intuition is that Bloodtooth is still going to be the best subfaction, just because Age of Sigmar is a game about moving models on the table. Bloodtooth can still move better. They can still move better. And Pigs may have gotten better with... They definitely got better with Hoarfrost, and maybe Zogrok is going to add some more damage on top of that. I love how I always get 2 Ks and not 2 Gs. Okay. All the Moggruntas, I think, are F tier. I think that all the Moggruntas are likely F tier in Ironjawz. I have a feeling that you just don't play any big pigs in Ironjawz at all, in any subfaction. I have a feeling that's what it's like. I'm looking at GW to... I mean, I think that they're probably going to get points reductions, so we'll have to see what happens. But fundamentally, the problem with the big pigs is their mechanics, right? It's they have a low volume of dice. Momentum is not a reliable thing. I'm not sure what to say about them. I have a feeling that all Moggruntas are going to be F tier. But everything else in the army is at least playable. You can play Zogrok, you can play the new everything. Maybe not the Rekkas, but everything else. Anyway, for those of you that are relatively new to the army and are trying to learn, let's now cover some of the basics. So Ironjawz has the overall army strategy. Right now there's 2 different strategies. Alpha Strike and like a Grindhouse. So an Alpha Strike is like, on turn 1, I'm going to attack you with tons of stuff. I'm going to pin your deployments on. I'm going to get you on turn 1. And then like a more of a Grindhouse style is like lots of wounds, lots of armor, lots of feet on the ground. You're going to take objectives, and you're just going to sort of outvalue your opponent over the course of the whole game. Regardless of which of these you choose, you're still going to be aggressive. You're still going to be moving out the board. You're still going to be pinning your opponent in their deployment zone. You're going to be spreading out, taking the map. That's kind of the style of Ironjawz. We are an aggressive army. We will try to deny our opponent access to objectives for as long as possible and make it difficult for them to get their battle tactics. And for us, some pretty easy battle tactics are That's Our Turf, Intimidate the Invaders, Magical Dominance, and Led into the Maelstrom. So when you're designing a list for competitive play, and when you're designing like just whatever it is that you're designing for competitive play, you have to think about what battle tactics are you going to get in what phases of the game, because if you're unable to achieve enough battle tactics, you have to rethink how you're going to be approaching the army, how you're going to be approaching the game, because that's how you win. So That's Our Turf is have 2 Ironjawz units within 3 of the center. Intimidate the Invaders is be more wholly outside of your territory, I believe, than inside your territory. Magical Dominance is cast a spell without anything being unbound, and Led into the Maelstrom is where you charge 2 units in. One of them has to be a hero, and then at the end of the phase, one of them is still within 3 inches of an enemy. So, for me anyway, I feel like those are 4 that are relatively easy to get, and so when I'm building my list, I'm kind of thinking about those kind of in the back of my head. So battle trades. So there are a few. So first one is the Wa. So this is the best Wa in the Auric Warclans book. It's better than Cruel Boys, it's better than Big Wa, it's better than Bone Splitters. It's fantastic. At the start of the charge phase, your general must be alive, but table wide, you get +1 charge and +1 rend. That rend is sick. Extra rend is fantastic, especially when it's everything that you have on the table. Very good Wa. Another important battle trait is Mighty Destroyers. In the hero phase, you can move, charge, or pile in, depending on how far the chosen model is away from enemy units. If you're more than 12, you move. If you're between 12 and 3, you charge. If you're within 3, you pile in. So this is awesome. This is a very, very strong ability. It makes the army incredibly mobile. It means that on turn 1, Gore Grunches can go 8 or 9 inches in the hero phase, and then 9 inches in the movement phase, and then if you call the walk, can have a plus... Whoa. And then if you call the wall, can have a +1 charge. Mighty Destroyers is what makes Ironjawz. Be careful of Geminids. Geminids will turn... Geminids, right? Yes, will turn off this ability, right? It's very, very strong. That's how good Mighty Destroyers is. It's one of the reasons why Geminids is so strong, is it turns off command things. Commands. And last but not least, we have Smashin' and Bashin'. If you pick a unit to fight and it kills the unit that it was fighting, you get to activate again. So you can chain this, and it can be absolutely disgusting. If you get your buffs right, if you get your positioning right, if you throw the right models or the right units into the right opponent's models, if you call your Wa, you can just be like, okay, like I fight and kill your thing, I fight and kill your thing, I fight and kill your thing, you have no things left next turn. It's very scary. So, but you have to plan your combat phase accordingly, right? You have to think about this. You have to be like, well, I'm going to charge here, because I'm going to be aggressive, and I'm going to charge in here, and I'm going to choose to fight here first because I'm pretty sure I can just delete this screen, and then I get to charge again. So it takes a little bit of getting used to, right? So it's, yeah, very, very strong. So now some of the realm rules. So we have the Endorian Locust. This is wizards with 10 or fewer wounds that are not unique. For us, in the Ironjawz army, we have a Wierdnob Shaman. That's it. But we can also ally in from the Gloomspike Gitz armies a Fungoid Cave Shaman, a Madcap Shaman, and a Web Spinner Shaman. So, I mean, the Fungoid Cave Shaman, I think it's on a 4-up, right? At the beginning of your hero phase, can generate a command point for you. But overall, I haven't found any of these to be particularly useful. We don't need as many locusts as we did Galatian Champions from last season. So if we did, I would say Web Spinner Shaman. If you just want a locust and you don't care about anything else, a Web Spinner Shaman is a pretty good one because he has a ward of 5-up. Yeah, I think he's really cheap too. I think he's like super cheap. He's under 80 points for sure. I think he might be 65 points and he has a 5-up ward, right? Like he's pretty good. There's also the rule Optimal Focus, or as we call it, Locust Focus, at the start of the round. If you're going second, you get to pick a locust to get +1 spell cast, or you can pick a different hero to get a command point. Throwing a command point on a Mega Boss or a Mega Boss on Mock Crusher is fantastic because you're not just getting one, you're also getting like one that can be doubled or tripled. And here it says second spell, Teleport plus Blizzard, but that's obviously wrong because you can't do that anymore. So, I mean, Blizzard? Right? Your second spell could just be a Blizzard. Your second spell could be Hoarfrost if you have Shaman of the Chilled Lands, right? If you take Shaman of the Chilled Lands, then the Locust Focus, choosing your spellcaster to do that is okay, but like, so overall, not too bad. Nullstone Adornments, this is the unique enhancement for the season. It might be worth taking over a Wierdnob Shaman. It kind of depends on how you want your list to be. Be sure to check out my video on some Ironjawz lists that should be coming out pretty soon. Primal Magic. At the start of every hero phase, each player rolls on a 4-up. Both players get a Primal Magic die. You get to roll the dice and add them to your casting rolls. There's primal casts and miscasts and all that. I'll leave that to you. But for us, this is a relatively low impact thing for Ironjawz. We're not an anti-magic army. We're not a magic-heavy army. You would think that we would be a good army that would have use of the Nullstone Adornments, right? Because we're not so interested in that. That being said, Hoarfrost on pigs is fantastic. More on that later. So I don't know, like it's fine, right? Like it's fine. It's not super important or impactful on us. Yeah. So Nullstone Adornments. When considering whether or not you should take a Nullstone Adornment, you have to consider the opportunity cost. Okay, so what do I mean by that? I mean, you can either have a pouch of Null Dust, or you can have a Wierdnob Shaman. So I think that both are viable. But they come with different trade-offs. So what do you get if you take a pouch of Null Dust? If you go second, you still prevent your opponent from buffing their army, and then you might potentially double turn them. So what I mean by that is on turn 1, you're like, oh, I'm going to use my pouch of Null Dust. So what the Pouch of Null Dust does, like what it means, is once per battle, at the start of the hero phase, so yours or your opponent's, you can say that the bearer will use the Pouch of Null Dust. If you do so until the end of that phase, unmodified casting rolls that include double ones, double twos, or double threes are treated as miscasts, or if a primal magic die was rolled as part of the casting roll, as a primal miscast. In addition, roll a die for each endless spell on the battlefield. On a 5-up, the endless spell is dispelled. So, what it kind of does is it turns off magic for a turn, right? It doesn't actually do that, but the probability, what is the probability of rolling double ones, twos, or threes on 2d6? The probability is... I need to ask a better question. Anyway, but I feel like the probability is actually pretty high, right? So it means that, like, if you're going second and you're like, hey, opponent, go ahead and have your magic phase, but I'm going to use Pouch of Null Dust. It's like the probability that they not only don't get to cast any spells, but the probability that they're miscast is 25%. I just did the math. And that's not including any primal dice. So anytime your opponent's going to roll anytime your opponent's going to roll for any of their magic, the probability that that's miscast is 1 in 4, and that probability goes up a lot as soon as they start throwing some primal dice in. Okay, so if your opponent is going first, it means that you can sort of prevent them from buffing, and then you attack them, and then hopefully get a double turn, because that's kind of why your opponent would want to go first against a really aggressive army like Ironjawz, so that they can get off their Mystic Shields, they can get off their damage buffs, they can unpack their cast a little bit, but depending on the army, right? And then if you're going first, it means that you get to attack them, and then on their turn, you stop their magic. So you're going to get 2 combat phases in a row where they're unbuffed, or at least mostly unbuffed, because not all buffs are spells. So, seems okay. Wierdnob, you can teleport 6 pigs into a straight line, Mighty Destroyers them forward so that they have a 3-inch charge. You can do tricks like that. You can teleport a Mega Boss into their backline and get them. You can use, it can be your general, and you can use Master of Magic for some added consistency, or you can use Shaman of the Chilled Land. Hoarfrost adds a lot of damage to lots of our units. Mega Bosses, War Chanters, Gorgruntas, lots of things in our army benefit from Hoarfrost. Teleporting also enables the Wa Grand strategy, which is either your general or battle line on the other side of the table. So the fact that if you have a Wierdnob Shaman as your general with Master of Magic, it helps enable your Grand Strat, which is good. You can also sort of leapfrog and teleport support heroes into position, right? So you're going to run, let's say, a bunch of pigs forward, but you still want to buff them, so you can teleport a War Chanter up within 15 inches, right? And there's some certain maps where having locusts will get you extra points for being on objectives and stuff. So I don't know. Right now, I think we'll talk about that in lists. Check it out in lists. But what do you think? Which do you think is better? Do you think it's, having played some games now, do you think it's better to take Null Dust, or would you rather have a Wierdnob? I don't know. I know what I think, what my preference is, but. So let's look at some of our spells. This is Lore of the Weird and Lore of Primal Frost. So Hoarfrost is fantastic. You use it on Gorgruntas. You use it on the Tusks and Hooves. That's the best place to put it. It doesn't matter what you roll. Even 1 rend is better than the 0 rend that it has. A unit of 3 pigs is going to be rolling 12 dice for their Tusks and Hooves. So suddenly having 1 extra rend on 12 attacks is significant. Check out my pigs damage comparison video for a more in-depth look at that. But also things like War Chanters. A War Chanter is actually a very good recipient of a Hoarfrost buff, because the War Chanters, Orc War Chanters, actually hit a lot harder than people think. They have 6 attacks with 3s and 3s, 0 rend, right? But they deal D3 damage. So 6 dice, if you can suddenly get 2 rend, right? All out attack, 2s and 3s, 2 rend, D3 damage, all of a sudden a War Chanter can actually kind of slap. And an Auric Megaboss, a Megaboss only has 1 rend. right? Threes and threes, 1 rend, 2 damage. So if it's the destroyer turn, if you can get that to 2 rend, if you can get that to 3 rend, and if you roll a 1, you can have them on 2s to hit. So you can be on 2s to hit, 2s to wound, 1 rend, 5 damage. Seems pretty good. Rupture is not worth taking, but it can be okay if you have a Shaman of the Chilled Lands. That's fine. Merciless Blizzard is actually pretty decent. I don't think I would choose it as my first spell, but again, Shaman of the Chilled Lands. Or if you're going to run 2 wizards, you know, you can have that on the second one. The Great Big Green Hand of Gork, I think, is obviously the best spell. Teleporting, moving things around the table, very, very useful. Good for some grand strats, right? Surround and Destroy, lots of good stuff. Foot of Gork will likely need Primal Dice, but it's not a terrible spell. Oh, geez. Sometimes I'm reading my notes here, and I'm like, I don't even know what that does. Like, what does that even does? What does it even do? Foot of Gork. Foot of Gork is a spell, casting value of 10, range of 18. Pick one enemy unit within range and visible. Suffers D3 mortal wounds. Then roll a die. On a 1 to 3, the sequence stops. On a 4 up, the unit suffers D6 mortal wounds. Keep rolling dice in this way until the sequence stops or the target unit is destroyed. So this is very similar to Wargog's Mask. This one's not as good, though, because it's, I mean, on a 4 up, it's D6. Yeah, and if you fail, it just stops. So, I mean, you might need some Primal Dice because it does have a casting value of 10. So I doubt anyone takes the spell. Bcalm Lads is a pretty good spell, but needs some work to make good. So this could be your second spell. It's a spell that has a casting value of 8. Until your next hero phase, you can add 1 to wounds for attacks made by friendly Ironjawz units that are wholly within 16 inches of the caster. So that one's actually okay. But again, it's like but between some of these other spells, it's hard to justify anything really, but like Blizzard, Hoarfrost, Hand of Gork. So Mighty Headbutt's just bad. Command traits. So when we're looking at a general in our army, there's really only 2 options that we can take. One of the very unfortunate things about command traits in Ironjawz and orcs in general, but particularly in Ironjawz, is there's command traits are for megabosses only and wizards only. I'll say that again. You can only have command traits for megabosses and wizards. So there's really only a couple choices for your general. It can be a megaboss on Makrusha, a megaboss on foot, or a Wierdnob Shaman. So let's talk about, obviously the Makrusha is going to be better than the megaboss on foot. So for a megaboss on Makrusha, you could take Mighty Waaagh Leader, which is reroll charge rolls for units that are wholly within 12 during the Waaagh turn. This adds some consistency. We're getting +1 to charge, and now we can reroll charge. So you can reroll like 2 squads of 6 Gorgruntas and the Makrusha himself, right? It's like, okay, like I've moved up, I'm pretty close, I'm 5 inches away, and because I get to reroll, everything's getting in, adding just some consistency. It sucks when you're trying to be hyper aggressive and you flop on a charge roll. If the Makrusha is not going to be your general, the Makrusha and a Megaboss both are totems. So that means that even if they're not the general, they can still use commands from 18 inches away, which is really good because with the ear-splitting bellow, where you can double and triple those commands that you're sending out, you need a nice big range so you can catch lots of different stuff. But overall, Megaboss is a good choice. The other choice is Wierdnob Shaman. There's only a couple of, in my opinion, viable command traits for wizards. One of them is Master of Magic. This helps make your teleport spells more consistent, or whatever spell it is you're going to be rolling more consistent, because you get a reroll. You can't use Primal Dice with this reroll, right? So you have to pick and choose if you're going to be using the rerolls or Primal Dice. But, I mean, teleports are amazing. Putting Gorgruntas forward, putting the Megaboss behind your opponent, moving Ardboys onto objectives, fantastic. The other option is Shaman of the Chilled Lands. It's worth considering to have access to Hoarfrost, Blizzard, and a teleport. Here's really the choice. Do you want to pick one spell for your Wierdnob Shaman and be able to re-roll that spell once per turn? Or would you rather have access to 3 spells? That's the question. Do you want to have more of a toolbox where you can pick the best thing for the situation? Or pick one thing that you can do way more consistently? Yeah, I shouldn't talk about Big Waaagh. Those are kind of the options. Both are good. Both are viable. For subfactions, Bloodtooth offers more ability. This is our Gorgrunta subfaction. You want things moving all over the table and making a mess? This is the subfaction for you. After pigs fight, they get to, I think it's like pile in, or no, I can't remember. I think that it's like kind of like Mighty Destroyers. They get to either move or pile in depending on on what it is. Friendly Bloodtooth Gorgruntas that fought in this phase that are within 3 inches of an enemy unit can make a pile-in move. Those that fought that are not within 3 inches can make a normal move or attempt to charge. So if you buff up your Gorgruntas, you charge them in, they delete the unit, they can keep moving forward. Fantastic. This is a better mechanic than Momentum. Ugh. They should have just taken this Bloodtooth Subfaction ability, and they should have like made a table for it and like how you generate momentum points and then used it straight up. It's dumb. Iron Suns. So at the end of the enemy charge phase, you can charge. That's how Iron Suns work. So if your opponent is trying to charge you but fails, or if your opponent's moving up but doesn't want to charge you, you can countercharge them. Pretty good. And Dachapas, when you use your War Chanters to buff Brutes and Ardboys, instead of just buffing one unit with Violent Fury, you get to buff 3 units with Violent Fury. So you get to, like, everything is going to get that Violent Fury +1 damage. Like, everything. You're going to run 2 War Chanters, maybe even 3, and everything is going to get that extra damage. It's unclear to me at this time which of these sub-factions is best. My suspicion for the best one is Bloodtooth. My suspicion for the worst one is Dachapas. That's where I'm sitting right now. Because Iron Suns, you want to reinforce units, and Dachapas, you want to have many smaller units. So, I don't know. Artifacts of Power. Artifacts of Power are worse than command traits because only Mega Bosses can take them. The only Artifacts of Power are for Mega Bosses. And of the 3, Destroyer's the best. +3 damage once per game. This is really the only artifact to take. That's it. This is it. There's not really any universal artifacts that are super interesting, right? Like what Amulet of Destiny? You want to have a 6-up ward? Like, boo. Like, it's not very impactful. Vial of Manticore Venom, adding +1 to wound, while +3 damage is just better. You could take Arcane Tome, but if you do, it's like, what are you casting? Like, you'd have to have endless spells because you don't care about Mystic Shield all that much. There's nothing really going on besides Destroyer. So you just take Destroyer because Destroyer is fantastic. For mount traits, there's actually a few. I think you would take Fasten. You could take it you put it on the Mega Boss on Makrusha. I do not think it's worth taking a Tusk Boss for any reason. I think a Tusk Boss is likely F tier, so there's no sense in putting any mount traits on an F tier model. You just don't take it. Fasten, I think, is the default, but in the right meta with the right list, Wierdnob is a 4-up ward against mortal wounds caused by spells. That one could actually be pretty decent. Lots of Seraphon in your meta? Well, take Wierdnob. Yeah, and Smellian deserves an honorable mention, but I don't know. You can check out Smellian on your own. Say, talking battalions, you take Battle Regiment every time. Controlling who goes first is going to be pivotal in this army. You really want to be pinning your opponent back. It's a core strategy. Also, Warlord doesn't do much for us because there's not really any other enhancements that we care about. We can't take another command trait. There's not really another mount trait we can take. An extra spell is pretty meh. It's just there's not really much that we want from Warlord. So controlling that first turn is fantastic. And Acolytes, we're not playing that game, right? We're not playing the magic game. So we'll let all the wizards, all the Plothins use their magic, and we're just not going to play. We're just going to run in and smash. So we don't care if we're falling behind in Primal Dice. We're just going to go in and smash. If you're trying to counter magic, if that's a concern of yours when you're list building for whatever reason, for your local game store, whatever, that instead of taking Acolytes, instead take Pouch of Null Dust instead. If you're like, I want to counter their magic, then don't take Wizards. That's how you're going to do it. Can't take Gobsprak. For grand strategies, just take Wa. Just take Wa. Okay, battle tactics. So here's all of the battle tactics that we have access to in our in the General's Handbook for this season. So I gave them a rating of S, A, B, and F, where S is going to be like, it's part of our core plan. We're probably going to take it every time. Like, relatively easy to get. A is, these are going to be easier for us to get and will likely come up. B is like situationally, like sometimes we'll be able to get them, sometimes we won't, depending on the game. And F is like, we actually can't score these. it's asking us to do something that is impossible for us to do in our army. As you can see, there's no Fs. So that's fantastic. Okay, so Magical Dominance, I think, is S tier. If you take a wizard, you just deploy him outside of 30. You're controlling who goes first. Teleport turn 1 with Master Magic reroll. It's not going to be unbound because you deploy too far back. It's a very easy battle tactic to get. If this works for you, if it's part of your plan, it's very easy. That's our turf now. This is from... Oh, this is wrong. No, this is all of them from our book and from the GHB. So this is all the battle tactics that we have access to. That's our turf now. This is one from the Ironjawz book. This one is you have to have 2 units within 3 of the center of the battlefield. This is one of the ones that was added in. This is relatively easy for us to get because we're such an aggressive army. It's going to be easy for us to move our units up the board. I think if you take Magical Dominance turn 1, you probably take That's Our Turf now. Maybe you take it on turn 2, right? But another one that is also very good for us is Led into the Maelstrom. This is from the GHB and Led into the Maelstrom. You complete the battle tactic if all of the following are true. At least 2 friendly units charged this turn. Easy. At least 1 friendly battle line unit charged this turn. Easy. We're going to be charging with Ardboys, Brutes, and Gore-Gruntas. Easy. At least 1 friendly hero charged this turn. Mega Boss on Makrusha, Mega Boss on foot, Ardboy, Boss, Warch. There's lots of good heroes that we have. At least 1 friendly battle line or hero unit that charged this turn is within 3 inches of an enemy unit at the end of the turn. So this is even easier in Bloodtooth because if we charge in and kill things, we get to move again. So especially in Bloodtooth, very easy for us to accomplish this. Very, very easy to do. So S tier. Intimidate the invaders. You complete this battle tactic if at the end of your turn there are more friendly units wholly outside of your territory than there are friendly units within your territory. This could almost be accomplished on turn 1. Quite easy to get. Super good. Super easy. We're very aggressive, right? So we're going to be really charging at them. So those are the 4 S tier ones. I think you get those every time, right? That's why at the beginning of the video I sort of laid out these 4 battle tactics. They're actually super easy for Ironjawz to get. It's very important. Then, after that, you have to look at the rest of the battle tactics and try to find ones that are more situationally available. So, for example, I'm just going to cover the 2 A tier ones. So, Surround and Destroy. Pick 3 different units on the battlefield. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if each of those units is wholly within 6 inches of a different battlefield edge, and 2 or more of those units are wholly outside of your territory. This one's a little bit trickier to get, but because we have a teleporting shaman, because we want to teleport our shaman to the other side of the table to get our Wa, it's actually quite easy to set this up, especially if you're playing Bloodtooth, because you have mobility. So you can like run units around the map. You can have 1 on your side, 1 on the opposite side, and 1 on the left or the right. You know, like it's actually not too difficult to get this one. Definitely worth thinking about. Definitely worth trying. Squish Deputy Gets. This is another one from the Orc War Clans book. You can pick this tactic only if the model picked to be your general has the Ironjawz keyword, which of course we will in this army. And there is at least 1 enemy battle line unit on the battlefield. You complete this tactic if there are no enemy battle line units on the battlefield at the end of the turn. This is one of those situational ones where you're like, okay, what am I going to do? Okay, well, I'm going to move here and attack here and charge here and so on. And it's reasonable for me to expect that at the end of the turn, I'm going to absolutely destroy this unit. Hey, do you have any more battle line units besides... Oh, this is your only battle line unit left on the table? Okay, fantastic. I'm going to pick Squish Deputy Gets. You have to sort of pay attention and catch these when they come. Because our S tier ones, lots of our S tier ones can be accomplished out on any turn, right? Magical Dominance is best on turn 1, but if you keep your shaman in the back, right... Or if you're able to kill, like, you know, you can sort of get it later too. That's our turf now. You just gotta have stuff in the middle. Do you know how easy that's gonna be? Especially if you have like a war chanter or a wizard who's standing sort of in the middle of the table as everything else moved up. Very easy. Let into the Maelstrom. Charge, right? You're gonna charge heroes. Intimidate the invaders is get outside of your territory. There's gonna be lots of opportunities to intimidate the invaders. So you have to sort of pick more difficult ones when they arise, right? That's kind of the idea. Time to get stuck in. You can pick this battle tactic only if it's your first or second turn. You complete this tactic if the model picked to be your general, and all of the models in your army that are on the battlefield are within 12 inches of an enemy unit at the end of this turn. So this is only for turn 1 and 2. This is supposed to be like an orc one. like a very aggressive Alpha Strike one, but the trouble is getting all your support heroes within 12. This one, actually, I have found works better on the other end of the table. If I'm a Cruel Boys player, for example, playing against an Ironjawz player, and I know they're going to be charging in, and I have like this castle built, it's going to be actually quite easy for me to have everything within 12 of an enemy unit. So this one, sometimes you can take it, depends on how aggressive you're going to be. Reprisal is killed the unit that killed your general, so if your general dies, you can get him back. And this expropriation, this one I believe is the you have to kill. Okay, so you pick one enemy unit that summoned an endless spell that is on the battlefield or that is bonded to an incarnate. You complete this battle tactic at the end of the turn if either of the following are true. 1, the enemy unit has been destroyed, or the incarnate is wild. Basically, if you see a wizard that you can kill that has an endless spell summoned, that's this battle tactic, right? So you can get there. Let's see what else we got. Magical Mayhem, kill with a spell. If you have Shaman of the Chilled Lands, right, you can cast Blizzard on it. This one's okay. And Bait and Trap is you retreat 2 units and charge 2 units. We're kind of in it to win it. Retreating is for cowards. So this one's not super fantastic. It doesn't really matter what your battle tactics are as long as you have a plan of what they're going to be and you know how you're going to be able to achieve them. That's the important thing. Key units, Mega Boss on Maw Crusher, absolutely fantastic hero, kick you in the teeth, really good. Wierdnob Shaman, really great. War Chanters are pivotal. You want at least 2. I don't think I've ever seen an Ironjawz list without 2 War Chanters. At least 2. Have you? I sure haven't. Gore Gruntas are really good. The new Arboids are really good. The old Brutes, I guess, are fantastic, and the new Ragers are really good. So, if you take these models or these units here on the screen right now, and you mix them in any combination in an Ironjawz list, your Ironjawz list will be good. It will be good. You might have to, trade out some units for others depending on how it plays and what you want to accomplish with it. But if you just take these units, you'll be fine. Conclusion. This army is looking really good right now. The units that we got turned out to be decent. Decent. Like all other armies, make sure you have a plan going in. There's still a lot of work to do to figure out this army. What have you been playing that seems to be working? What lists for Ironjawz have you been playing that seem to be working? If you're curious to know what kind of lists I've been thinking up and scouring the internet and so on, be sure to check out my next video about lists in Ironjawz. But until then, oh, do you know what's funny? So in my last videos, I did a loud wah. I leaned my head back and wad, and I got 2 comments on the video. One that said, yes, good, wah, nice. And the other one said, no, too loud, wad. No. Like, subscribe, wah.